In this video, we will take a look at the basic drafting tools and the options to control them. Please note that the purpose of this video is to act as an introduction to the drawing tools and to show that they are similar to other systems that users may have come across. For a more detailed explanation, I would advise coming on our DraftSight Essentials training course. But with that being said, let's get started. You can either type in commands or select it from the ribbon. Now I'll use the ribbon and I'll start with the simplest element, the line. To start the line, you can click anywhere you choose, or you can type in a coordinate. So I'll type in 0, 0 to start at the origin. At present, the line is going in any direction at all. If I only want to draw in the X and Y directions, I can activate the ortho mode in the status bar. With that selected, my lines can only be vertical and horizontal. For more options, I could choose polar tracking, which snaps the lines to align with 15-degree increments. You can change this in the options should you wish, but I find 15 tend to work the best. So I want this line to be 100 mm long, so I'll just drag my mouse over toward the right there and type in a length. Okay, and then we can start to add in additional segments. So I go up at 60 degrees here, 100, and I can continue in that fashion, gradually drawing up this initial shape. Okay, so let's make that one 100 mm long. Then to close this loop off, well, if I look in the command window, I can see the options, and I see that there is a C for close. So if I type in that letter and hit enter, that will close the loop, and it will close the command as well. We can also use existing points of geometry for our lines as well. So for that, we use entity snaps. That will allow us to snap onto various different locations, like endpoints, for example, or in this instance, midpoints. So let's just click here. Over to that midpoint, up to the top there, and back to the start. Okay. So if you select entities on the screen, you'll see drag handles, and you can use those as well to manipulate your drawing. So if I select those two lines, I can grab that handle there and stretch those lines down to form an equilateral triangle there. I'm not going to demonstrate all of the drafting tools here, all of the drawing tools, but I'll show one of the options for one of the other commands, the circle. So we click on the circle, and you can see the options there in blue down at the bottom, and I can see that there is an option for TTT. Okay, so I'm going to go and select that, and this asks me to pick 3 objects. So I'll just select the 3 lines here, and what it will do is it will create a circle that is perfectly tangent with all 3 of those particular entities. Okay, so now we've created some geometry. Okay, if you look at the drop down, by the way, beside some of these features, you will see some of the options that are available for things like the circles, the arcs, and the ellipses there. So we have some geometry, we now need to start modifying. The most obvious thing to try and do here would be to trim, so I will show you the power trim tool. Now unfortunately that's only available in the higher levels of DraftSight, but you can see this grey line that appears behind my mouse. And essentially, wherever my mouse passes through geometry, that line segment or line is removed. So it's a really quick way to trim your sketches back. And it also acts as an erase tool as well. And I can end up with that geometry. Okay, but if you don't have those higher levels of DraftSight, we'll have to use the standard trim tool. Okay, so first of all, we'll have to take our design back to where we were before. There we go, and I'll just use the standard trim. So we select trim. In the command line, we're asked to select cutting edges, so what edges will be used to act as cutting edges to trim the other lines back to. So if I hit enter here, it will select everything as a cutting edge. And then I can start selecting objects to remove. I can click on them individually, or I could drag windows around the objects I want to trim back. But note with this, it will trim lines, but it won't delete lines. So here I'm left with two individual line segments, so I would have to delete them as a separate command. So having tidied up our geometry, we may want to do something else with it. We might want to move it or copy it or stretch it or do something like that. These commands all work in the same way. We select the command, select what we want to change, and then carry out that change. So let's start with the copy command. So we select the copy. What do we want to copy? So I'm going to copy the entire shape. So again, we could go and select things. Now note, if I drag from left to right, I get a blue box, and only items wholly within that blue box are selected. You can see them turning orange on the screen just now. If instead we drag from right to left, anything the box touches gets selected. So just be aware of which option you're using, whether you're going from left to right or from right to left. So I've selected everything there. I now have to hit enter. Then it's saying where do I want to copy from and to. So again, I can use those entity snaps, or I could type in coordinates. So I'm going to start my copying from this point here, and let's just copy it across onto there. We'll create a little bit of a pattern perhaps as we're going across. Okay, so the copy command just keeps copying multiples until you feel you've created enough. Let's just put one final one perhaps over there. Okay, so there we have this simple bit of geometry. Now if I select everything there, I can look at the properties of those items in the properties panel over on the right hand side. And I can see there's 40 items there, of which 5 of them are arcs. So what I could do here is I could maybe select those arcs and decide that perhaps I want to highlight them in some way, so I'm going to make them red. I could also have perhaps put things onto a different layer should I wished. So this is the end of this little section, just as a brief, as I say, brief introduction to the drafting tools within DraftSight. I'd urge you to try and just draw some simple shapes up yourselves, test it, get to familiarize yourself with the different commands, and see how you get on.